Hey friends, today we're talking about something that impacts every homeowner in Florida, your insurance. What it costs and how much homeowners don't realize until it's too late. We're sitting down with a local expert to break it all down and help you protect your home and your money. Let's get started. Today, I'm sitting down with Jordan from Goosehead Insurance. Welcome.
Hi.
So excited to have you on the podcast today. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and what your origin story is.
So we have been in Brevard County since 2015, and we came down here from Jacksonville. We came down here because my husband was going to run an Allstate in a local dealership, and while he was doing that, we got recruited by Goosehead. So that's 10 years now. We've been running Goosehead. It'll be our 10-year anniversary this year.
Well, congratulations. Happy 10th birthday.
Yes, seriously.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what's happening in Florida insurance right now. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Awesome. So what does Florida insurance prices, or how do Florida insurance prices compare to other states?
Yeah, so we are sitting probably in the top 10 for highest prices for home and auto. Auto just as high as home. There's really no reprieve for the Florida homeowners and auto drivers, but we're not the top, so there's that silver lining.
Definitely.
Yeah.
How about first-time home buyers? What do you tell first-time home buyers when they're starting to shop for insurance?
I would say call a local agent. Just kind of get a vibe for, what is a new home going to be versus an older home? How much is the home going to cost in Palm Bay versus how much it's going to cost in maybe Satellite Beach or Vieira? I think people are always a little surprised to find out, that newer home is actually going to cost you less than that older home. That masonry home is going to have a significant discount compared to that frame home. So just talk to an agent and kind of get some estimates on, what you're looking at. We can't give exact rates, but we can give ranges.
Yeah, it definitely helps to have somebody that you trust, that you can talk through those things that are just the unknowns in the beginning.
It has a huge impact on the home buying process. It didn't used to, I don't think, but it certainly does now.
Yeah, speaking of the unknowns, there's something that I learned a little bit today prior to us jumping on this podcast. Tell me a little bit about credit scores and how they impact insurance.
Yes, so this is something I would say is relatively new in the last 5 to 6 years. The carriers are using birthdays and prior addresses to run what they're calling an insurance score. And it's not just based on claims, it's also based on credit a little bit. It's not a hard pull on your credit, but they are kind of looking at, how many accounts you have, how well they're maintained. Are you carrying a lot of debt at this time? And it is affecting the home insurance premium and also claims. Remember your claims. The carriers will look back 5 years, and it does affect the premium. 100% it does.
So even if you have a great credit score, even if you don't have a ton of claims, that can still go up?
It still can. I don't understand the rhyme or reason for it, but asking for that 100% accurate rate. It's not every single carrier, but I would say of our 30, it's probably 20 of them are running these insurance scores, and it does affect things. And it, you can have a perfect credit score, and you can have no claims in the last 5 years, and it can still go up.
Wow.
And only the carrier knows why. They do send a letter explaining it, but they don't tell us. We just get the premium.
So mysterious, these carriers are.
Yeah, the person behind the curtain.
Yeah. So you had mentioned different parts of Brevard County and how that impacts your insurance.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about flood insurance, since we do have a lot of water around us here. We've got the river, we've got the ocean. What would you tell people about flood insurance, even if they aren't required to get it if they're not in a flood zone?
Yeah, so I actually live in the Ranches area of Cocoa, very far from any water technically. I carry flood insurance. I tell people when they call in and ask this, pay attention to the drainage in your area, because if you have an abundance of rain, you don't have to have a lake or an ocean or a pond near you for it to rise. I tell that to especially new build people. How is that drainage in that new neighborhood? So I do recommend carrying it for at least a year or two if you're not in a flood zone, and getting to know how the waters flow in your area.
That's a really good point that you brought up. And actually, it reminded me of my parents. They had lived on a piece of land and no one was around them for quite some time. And then neighbors started to build up their lots and the elevation was a little bit higher. And then all of a sudden, anytime it rained, we saw the lake behind their house starting to come closer and closer and closer until it was eventually coming into the pool area. So That's great information. Speaking of people that are on the water, we've got a lot of people that have condos here in Florida. Do you need a wind mitigation for a condo?
Yes, I actually have this conversation with everybody all the time. It doesn't make a ton of sense because a condo policy is only covering the inside, but you do, in fact, if you have a mortgage, have to have hurricane coverage. And anytime you have wind coverage on your home insurance policy, whether it's condo or a full coverage policy, a wind mitigation will always help, especially if you're in one of those like 4-story or higher condo buildings. They come with really great wind mitigation credits. It could take your rate from being $3,500 down to $1,200. Wow. Just that wind mitigation. So always get one. Side note: the HOA always has one because they have to have one for their structure of their building since they're maintaining it. So you don't even have to pay for it; you just ask for it.
Good to know. Yeah. Fun fact.
Fun fact.
I like to dive a little bit into the saving money side of things.
Okay.
Because I think that's what a lot of our viewership is looking for when it comes to insurance, specifically here in Florida. So what would you say are the top 3 ways to be able to save money on insurance?
So long term, you're going to want to look at making sure you're qualifying for a shutter discount or that window discount. And that's not just shutters, it's going to be your doors too. Your entry doors and your garage door all have to qualify in order to get the credit. If you have an older home, make sure that home has clips or wraps in the roof and that you're qualifying for it. The inspectors get as detailed as they're required to get as detailed as how many nails are in that clip. So if it doesn't have enough, go ahead and get that 3rd nail. It's a significant discount on your home insurance. And if little discounts are going to be monitoring things that report to police and fire, are the only things you get discounts for. And then some carriers are now giving, if you have it, first responder or military now. So
Wonderful.
Those are, and also bundling. The carriers have now started to bring back bundling to Florida. It went away for a little while, but now they're offering it again. So ask about it. It may be there with your carrier.
You never know.
Yes.
One extra nail could save you thousands.
One nail.
So impact windows are something that a lot of people in Brevard County and Florida in general talk about. How much do impact windows really save you when it comes to insurance?
So this is actually a percent that kind of fluctuates based on the market, but right now we're kind of seeing anywhere between 15 to 25% discount if you get that, applied to your home. And you can go through state programs and get your windows updated and get rebates. So it's definitely something to look into because you not only do you get better windows or better doors, but you get that discount on your home insurance if you don't already qualify.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So speaking of all these savings discounts, if someone has their insurance policy and then all of a sudden it feels unaffordable, what would you suggest that they do?
I get this call a lot. It's a very sad call to take, especially for the retired people on, a single income or, their pension income. And so if you're just looking for something, and this would only be something you'd look at temporarily, a quick way to lower your premium would be to call your agent or another agent and explain the situation. We're going through a hard time right now financially. I would like to get a 1-year temporary policy that something super low cost. You're going to remove coverage, but it will help you get through that year. Some things that you could look into are maybe removing how you insure your contents, removing that replacement cost extra coverage. You could look into high deductibles for a year. That can usually lower your premiums substantially. Some things carriers do is remove contents coverage altogether. Now, these are things you're going to want to do temporarily and be fully aware that if something bad happens in that year, you're agreeing not to have that coverage. But it is something you can look into temporarily while you're maybe going through a hard time and to lower that, mortgage by lowering your insurance. It can make a big difference sometimes. Yeah. But just, look at it as a temporary fix, not a long term.
Sure.
Yeah.
And before we wrap up, let's discuss maybe some things that like mistakes that people could actually avoid with some of your advice. What would you say to somebody that has a regret after they make a claim, or what is the biggest regret that you see after people make a claim?
I would say people that use their insurance like a warranty. I most often hear regrets there. And not in a negative way. Like, you pay for insurance, you want to use it. Like, who wants to pay for something and never use it? But at the same time, like if your fence blows over during a hurricane and you file a claim and it doesn't meet the hurricane deductible, which is always going to be a higher deductible, that claim is still going to be there for 5 years. So just kind of being aware of what your deductibles are before you file the claim, or if you have a water leak and it's going to cost you $3,000 to fix, but your deductible is $2,500, probably not worth that $500 from the carrier to fix that. So just kind of being aware of the numbers so that you don't have those claims that really didn't help you for 5 years.
Sure.
Yeah.
How does roofs are a big thing here in Florida, especially for our real estate community.
Yes, they're huge here.
So how does ignoring a roof's age affect homeowners?
Yes, so we see more roof claims than we see anything else, by a long shot, especially where we are, because of hail, because of hurricane. So roofs really do matter. So if you're buying a house and it has, between a 10 to 20-year-old roof, be aware that you need to have that in that amount to replace that roof in your back pocket. It's definitely a thing where, people call in and they're wanting to shop. That is most often, okay, how old is your roof? When was the last time it was replaced? If it hasn't been replaced in the last 10 to 20 years, you're going to be looking at lower coverage options, which would be like actual cash value on the roof, to, possibly look at reducing your rate. The roof really does impact how much you're paying. So just always kind of have that emergency fund ready to go if you're buying that older roof house.
Yeah, definitely have an emergency fund if you can.
Yes, yeah, if you can, 100%. But if you're buying that older roof, it's really something to look into. Just
Definitely.
So, carriers come out and don't like it, you can fix that. So.
We also have a lot of short-term rentals here in Florida, a lot of Airbnbs, a lot of investment properties. How would you say that short-term rentals are when it comes to cost? Is it more costly for insurance?
Yes, it is. It's much higher cost than even an annual rental. The carriers see it as a higher liability. So a homeowner policy, they have that pride of ownership. So the carriers kind of rate that a little differently than an annual rental. But even an annual renter is going to have pride of ownership. That's their home. They're going to come home to that every day. But the short-term renters, they treat it as a vacation home. They're going to go in there. They're not going to treat it like their home some of the times. And it's just a higher liability. It's more renters coming in and out. You never know who's really renting that house because you're not doing background checks. So yes, it is going to be higher cost to have that short-term rental policy.
Yeah. The last question I have for you for today.
Okay.
What is the number one mistake that homeowners make with their insurance?
I would say there's two. A lot of homeowners won't actually end up talking to the insurance agent and asking the questions. They'll ask a family member. They'll maybe ask their real estate agent, which is an expert, but they're an expert in their field. That's the first thing. So they don't really have accurate answers on the policy that they're getting. They're taking maybe a non-expert's advice, but someone they trust. But the second thing I see most often is getting that higher hurricane deductible. So it takes me back to that quick fix. If you're going to take a high deductible, reassess it the next year. Because when you're filing that claim, a very high hurricane deductible means a very low payout in the event of a claim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jordan, for sharing all of your local expertise with us regarding insurance here today. We greatly appreciate you joining us on this podcast. If you would like some help reviewing your current policy, we'll link Jordan's information for Goosehead here below. And again, anything home buying related, give us a call here at Morgan Financial. Thanks for joining us today.